right, Russ, how you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good at the moment, thank you.
Yeah,
yes.
good. All right, we can
prepared for the show tonight.
have a little chat about your history and your past, and then go into the present and future. So tell us, where did the name The Disciples come from?
Well, Shaka gave us the name. You know, when we first went to him, we didn't have a name because we were just, you know, it's me and my brother, two white guys, just started making tunes. You know, we didn't have no idea of a career in music or whatever. We were fans of reggae music, and then got to be fans of Shaka through hearing session tapes and stuff. And you know, we just approached him with our music, and he was playing it. And then he asked us whether we had a name.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, we haven't thought about it." He said, "Oh, we'll come up with something for you." And you know, then 2 or 3 months later, being in one of his dances, he plays one of our tunes, and he says, "You know, this one Disciples in the area." And from that, we knew he was the Disciples.
It's a proper way to get a name.
Yeah, and it kind of fitted in because, you know, it was like disciples of followers, and we were followers of Shaka, you know.
Exactly.
I mean? So it kind of fitted in that, the Shaka umbrella.
Yeah.
You know.
And what do you reckon, if you hadn't had named you, what kind of,
we wouldn't have, I don't know if we would have thought of a name for ourselves, you know, but we didn't have to, so, you know, that,
you got lucky.
We were saved, phew, you know. So.
And do you remember what year you started to go Shaka sessions?
It wasn't until '86, it was September '86 that we first went. It was only a year before that I started making music.
And was it dub you started to make, or was that?
Well, of course, yeah, because you know, we didn't have singers and stuff like that. But it was reggae music, you know. We have been listening to reggae from, you know, my brother, because he's older, he was listening to it from earlier than I was, but from late '70s, you know, '78 onwards and stuff. And it was reggae music. It was Jamaican reggae music. So it had been Mighty Diamonds, and Culture, and Augustus Pablo, Gabby You, and all of that. You know, that's what we listened to. Studio One was a big thing, you know. We used to love Studio One. And so, you know, it was like, at first it was just, you know, re-licking a few old tunes, you know. Because there's only a little setup. I had a little Porter Studio, a little Tascam 244 4-track cassette machine. And, you know, it's like a couple of old little keyboards that were sort of lying around and stuff. I had bass guitar from when I was 15. My brother could play a rhythm guitar. And I bought this, you know, when I bought the 4-track, I bought a cheap drum machine, which was one, you know, people were kind of, the hip hop people will love it now, you know what I mean? It's the Drummatics, the Roland. I bought that, but for me it was like, doesn't sound like a reggae, or like my kind of reggae, you know, the root stuff. I mean, the dancehall guys might have been using it sort of mid-80s, but, you know, your roots people weren't really using that type of drum machine. But that was what I could afford, because it was a couple £100. The next drum machine up, which probably there wasn't that many around them days, probably would have been the Lin drum, and you know, even a used one of them back then was £1,200, £1,500. It was like, that was way above.
That's a lot.
But a £200 drum machine, yeah. So it's like, you know, I had them few little bits, and just, you know, just having a go at making some music with no real intention. You know, there certainly was no intention of the Shaka thing. Yeah. You know, that wasn't until a little bit after.
Did you have any sort of idea, like what you were kind of getting yourself into, like making music or giving?
No, it was a hobby. That's how I saw it. I mean, my brother wasn't even with me when I first started. It was just me doing his thing, because it was like, you seemed better than going down the pub every week. You know, so it was. But I liked music, and I had a little thing before that. I had this separate hi-fi, it was JVC stuff. I had this tape machine, a cassette tape machine, and it had mic inputs on the front. I had a couple of microphones, and I had this idea, because I was into reggae, I had this idea of like, I wonder, especially I love dub, you know what I mean? It was like, I wonder if I put one mic to the tops of the speaker, you know, it was like a bass middle treble, some Wharfdale speakers, bass middle and treble. Put the mic right near the top, and then put it down the bottom, and then put it in the mid, and do this, and then I could do a thing on this cassette machine where I could pull out one mic, and it would go from the mic that I was doing to this speaker to the mic that was just sitting in my room, which picked up the whole thing. And it was kind of like making a dub of a dub. So I did this one. I did it on King Tubby Meets the Rockers Uptown, that classic track. which was a great dub anyway, you know, I mean, always a favourite and stuff. I did this one, and it was like, it kind of worked out quite interesting, you know, and that sort of set a little thing in my mind about making music and stuff. But having no idea about making, I didn't know about equipment and you know. But I'd seen an advert in some magazine, I don't know whether it was one of the music press, you know, you had, at that time, you know, I was buying like Echoes magazine and New Musical Express and Sound. These were the music press magazines that were around in them days. I must have seen an advert for this 4-track and thought, you know, it was £600, which was still a lot of money back then, but it was affordable money. You know, if you wanted to get a reel-to-reel machine, even a 4-track reel, you know, a big reel-to-reel machine, again, you'd be spending over £1,000, £1,500 for that stuff. To be on me, I was working working in stores in a psychiatric hospital at the time. Crappy money and stuff. So it's like, but these things, like, they kind of looked affordable, and I could get my dad to come down the shop with me, and he could act as guarantor, and I'd pay it off every week. You know what I mean? A little sum of money every week, and so you could walk home with this little bit of gear and mess about. So I started messing around, you know, making some things, and you know, the first stuff was rubbish. It was terrible.
Do you still have any of it, or have you got rid of it?
No, I don't. I think, well, there might be a cassette with something, I can't remember, there might be a cassette hidden somewhere.
Would you dare listen back to it?
No, it's not for me. But it was rubbish. Yeah. You know what I mean? But then it's like, okay, because also you're learning reggae, you're learning a music that is not really, you know, naturally a white person's music to make. It wasn't like there was loads of white people making reggae music back in them days. So you kind of learn a bit, you know. So it's like, after a while, you start doing a few things and they start sounding all right. I played a few things to my brother and he sort of thought, oh, that's not sounding too bad. So then he started coming into it, playing rhythm guitar and things like that.
So in the beginning it was just you, and then your brother started to...
Yeah, because my brother was living away from home at that time, you know, so it was, you know, I had the studio in my bedroom. So that was it.
Would you kind of split the tracks, so you did the drums and the bass?
Yeah, you know, sometimes it was, I mean, because I knew he could play guitar, and I couldn't, at that time, I couldn't really play guitar, rhythm guitar and stuff. So it was like, well, I knew he could, so it was getting him to do that. And then obviously, you know, we both played a little bit of melodica, and we both sat there hitting bits of percussion and things, you know, and just, you know, seeing what we could come up with. And then as you sort of go along, it's just like, you start, okay, it's all right doing over tunes. That's great, because you learn stuff by doing that. You do over a few of these little ones that you kind of fancy doing and stuff, but then you get an idea. It's just like, oh, let me see, you know, I'm not really sure if I can do my own bass lines and this and that. But it was like, you know, we did a few things, and one tune that I did was sort of a turnaround of another tune, a known tune. It's a Freedom Sounds tune. So I kind of just twisted the bass line around a little bit, and it was on a steppers rhythm, because by that time we had been, you know, we was big record buyers, so we used to go to record shops all the time. And there was one record shop up in Camden Town, Flash Forward. The guys that worked in there, they were Shaka followers. One of them was Steve, you know, the big dread, the big white guy with the beard. Yeah. He worked in there. And they would always be playing Shaka tapes, and, you know, it's like, we'd hear these tapes and, wow, yeah, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, what's that?
And then there was another shop up in Kentish Town, just up the road, another record shop, and they were selling tapes, Shaka tapes.
Okay.
So I used to go up there and buy tapes and have a listen to it. You know, this is before we go to Shaka, you know what I mean? But it kind of, you know, hearing that, it's just like, it turns tune, you know, when you hear, even on a cassette, when it makes you listen to the tunes in a totally different way. So it's just like, okay, yeah, because Shaka's playing steppers and things like that. It's just like to make some of these harder tunes, you know, not sort of like the nicey tune, the nice reggae tunes that we kind of, you know, enjoyed from earlier and stuff. It's like, I want something a bit harder. And then it was like, you know, it's like when you hear your mixes and they're just on a cassette tape, even your mix downs, you know what I mean? It's just like, it don't sound like the records.
No.
It kind of just sounds flat and dry. You know, your records, they got all the kind of hiss and spit of the vinyl, you know, the vinyl pressing and stuff. So that made me have the idea about going to get a dub plate cut.
Right.
So I found out about Music House. Music House had this place up in Seven Sisters. Went up there and got a dub plate cut, just for myself, just to hear how it was and that. And that was like, okay, you know, that sounds interesting. And then a little time later, after we started building some more tunes, it was like, get another dub plate cut. And I took it around to a couple of shops. I took it to Flash Forward, and I took it to Pecking Studio One shop, because I used to go down there all the time. There used to be Daddy Peckings at that time, but his son Chris, who runs the shop now, he was down there, but he was a younger guy at that time. Where his old man wouldn't have been absorbed what he doing. He was like, oh, you should take that to Shaka. You know what I mean? They both said that. And obviously Shaka probably ran around them shops, you know, they all knew him and stuff. He said, you know, he's got his shop up in, Shaka had his shop up in New Cross.
New Cross, yeah.
His arts and craft culture shop. I said, you take it, so we're sitting there thinking, you know, and it's like after a few weeks, it's sort of, we've got to take the dub plate to, you know, people were telling us to, so just like, but we hadn't been to a Shaka dance, you know, we didn't really know that he was still
so
playing.
So what he had made it probably solely, you drew that inspiration from the tapes that you listened to. Right? Yeah. And then, so how did you get your music to Shaka then?
Well, we had, both me and my brother used to ride motorbikes at that time. So we found out that his shop was up in New Cross, and brother said, let's take it up there. So it went sort of sometime in a weekday. We went up there, we drove up there. Shaka wasn't in the shop, but one of his box boys was. And he was a nice guy, you know, I mean, you know, being white guys going into that kind of black arena at that time it was quite different. You know, it wasn't a natural thing like you see it now, you know. But we walked in the shop and the guy was, you know, he didn't sort of stare us down or anything like that. He just, you know, he had a real kind of sweet manner around him and stuff. They had a little record deck in there and stuff. Put it on, he's listening to that. Yeah. He said to us, leave it with us, Shaka will be here on Saturday, come back Saturday. So we thought, oh, you know, so we went away sort of like, oh, what's going to happen, you know? You know, we had really no kind of ideas.
Yeah.
Go back up there on Saturday, walk into the shop, and there's Shaka standing there holding that dub plate. Yo, this is you? I said, yeah. So, oh. He said, you know, I can't remember the whole discussion because it's like our age, so probably boiling, like, you know, it's like, what the hell?
Mind blown.
Yeah. You know, he said, tune when, because what I put on this dub plate was 4 different tunes, just one cut of 4 different tunes. He says, you know, you got any more pieces of these? I want 4 pieces of each. Anything else you got, you know, and then he handed us a flyer for the next dance, which was the following week. And that was it. That was the start of it.
So you drove home.
And we stopped around my brothers, and we were sort of sitting there. Oh wow! You know, it's like, what the hell? You know. And that's where it all started, really.
And how would you describe Shaka sessions back in those early days you were going?
It was raw. It was good because it was still when we first went. He was still running his old sound system, the old boxes that he used to have. You've seen them in the pictures with the hand carve,
with the double
Shaka in the jar, in the front of the board and stuff like that. That was the sound that he still had that old school sound. And you know, cables just going across the ceiling from his amp case over there. It was like cable across here, you know what I mean? It was like spider's web up in the ceiling. And the first dance that we went to, you know, we got there well early. You know, because the flyers like saying from 9 p.m. till it done, you know. In our naivety, we sort of like, we're there at 9 p.m.
9 sharp, yeah.
And, you know, we get to the place and there's no lights on, nothing, you know what I mean? But we hang around. And this was in Peckham Self-Help Centre. So we stay around, we went over to this, there was some coffee shop or something. And we went over there, stayed in there for a couple of hours, and we see this little transit van pull up outside. Nobody got out, they were just sort of sat in the van. My brother went across the road, spoke to him, you know, said, Shaka in tonight. And he said, yeah, live later. About another hour later, you know, Shaka's van drives up. So it's like, yeah, it's happening, So we go over and we go in the hall while he's still, this venue was upstairs, and they had to kind of load in the sound from the back, not from the front, but we went in the front, so we just went up and stood ourselves at the back of this hall, keep ourselves out of the way, while he's setting up. So we see that whole setup process. Guy, his box boys sitting on the box and twisting the wires together and all that. Yeah. So it was good to see all that. But at the same time, it was like we was kind of, it was our first time, so it was like we was pretty tired early on. So we didn't stay for the fullness of the dance. I can't remember what time it was, 2 o'clock, half 2 or something like that, we left. And obviously it was just getting started then. But from the first tune that he's playing and stuff, it's just like, you hear the tops coming first, and then the mid-range sort of lifts up at the same time because Shaka runs a 2-way. But it sneaks in. When he's first setting up, it sneaked in.
Yeah, you start from the tops.
Yeah, so you hear that, a little spit and sizzle of the record and stuff. And that's all good. And then he draws in the bass, and it's like, oh geez, you never heard anything like that. So I've said it in 100 other interviews. It's just like I didn't think I could breathe from when that first bass note dropped and stuff. And it's like you do breathe, and it gets on. The lights go out, and you just kind of like take it in,
go through, and
see the experience.
And did you make it till the end?
No, we didn't make it to the end. I think we went to a couple of dances and we didn't make it to the end until, maybe about the 3rd or 4th dance. It's like, we got to stay to the end. We can't be that white. You just have to prepare your mind to it, and then you get, the early part is just warm up.
Yeah, exactly. Later
on it just go. Like, we didn't know that before. We hadn't been to sound systems before, so.
And a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, Shaka came to your studio as well.
Yes.
So
well, that had been a thing that I've been, sort of talked on and off for years. But I lived out a little out in the suburbs, and obviously Shaka's got his own running to do, and I have my own runnings to do, so it never really kind of happened. But for the camera right now, 3 years ago I had cancer.
Yeah.
And I was mashed up with it and stuff. And my brother worked in Dub Vendor, and Shaka would pass there all the time, and obviously my brother told Shaka, Shaka would ask, he would keep asking me how I was doing and stuff. And then when I was starting to get better, I went through chemotherapy and all that. And when I started to get better, he phoned me up and, sort of keeping an eye on me, which was nice, what I mean? It's like, that was good, And he said, it's like, you need to come down. And eventually it was, organised through John at Dub Vendor. John and Shaka and my brother come down together in the car. And we made some tunes.
Yeah. How many tunes did you make?
We made 5 tunes. There was a 6th, but it only really got a piano chop on it, and nothing really come of it,
Right.
It was alright. It was no, we didn't really have any kind of major idea. Part of it was because I had asked him, with the modern world, we use things it's like Bandcamp and all that sort of stuff. And obviously he just released records. And so I had asked him if I could put the albums that I did for him, or 2 of them that I had the actual files for, put them on Bandcamp, and he was kind of like a little unsure, because he don't know about Bandcamp. And he didn't really want it sort of
like that.
Affecting, his runnings with them albums. We go, the albums we sort of gave him the music, and that was it, But he said, no, we'll do some tunes. I'll do some tunes for you. So that was part of the concept of him coming down as well, was to try and give us something back.
Right.
Out of all the music that we gave him. So it was kind of like that.
And do you have any plans with the tunes?
At the moment, no, because obviously he's passed away now, and it's kind of his thing has been left down to his son.
Right. Yeah.
And his son don't know mine and Shaka's runnings on the thing, so I really need to speak with his son. But I don't know. Sometimes you just sit music down, and that's how it stays. You know, there's a ton of music made in reggae music that never sees release. So who knows? Who knows? And
when you started to make music, what's besides listening to Shaka tape, what sort of developed your style, would you say? Like what, because you made your own sort of disciple style, like.
You know, the style, you know, especially at that time, it come about because it's like, usually, I think with most people, it comes about because of the equipment that you buy. You know, it's like, it's not like we were a band, you know, it wasn't like there was a live drummer and me playing bass, brother playing rhythm guitar, keyboardist and this and that. It was just me and sometimes my brother and these bits of sound modules and drum machines and stuff. So the drum machine that you buy, it makes it sound. So your sound develops partly around that. And then, you know, the keyboards that your sound module might have, that's like you choose the piano that you might like out of it and this and that you might like out of it. And that makes part of your sound. Then you might buy a reverb and a delay, and the reverb, it could be a spring reverb, it could be a digital reverb. It might be a cheap digital reverb, so it don't really sound that great. So that makes part of your sound.
Yeah.
And then obviously you just have your way of kind of applying EQs and your way of mixing. I always felt, you know, a big influence for mixing, although, you know, it's like the greatest dub mixer was King Tubby. But when I got into reggae, it was like I was a little after that period, so it was like Scientist was coming on. So I always feel that my influence was more from Scientist. I loved his style, the way, the rawness of these mixes, you know what I mean? Just like they was on kind of, you know, in that early 80s period, on brand new rhythms from that time. That was when I got into the music. So that was, you know, his thing was a big influence. But then all of it, because we was into all the styles of reggae music. So you listen to Pablo and you listen to Freedom sounds, you know, the Jamaican Freedom sounds, and you'd listen to Yabby You and you'd listen to that, and you'd kind of, you know, in your head, it's like you'd want to be able to get that sound,
sort of sound, yeah.
But your equipment is only making you get this sound. But this sound then becomes your sound, you know. So people could buy the exact same equipment as I got, but never sound the same as me, because I would just utilise it in a different way than what they would use it.
So personal
and
preference.
Same with the next man and the next man. It's like the sound system, you know, you could have 5 sound systems, all the same equipment, but each man would like EQ it a little bit different, play it a little bit different place and different tune, and have their little vibe of how it comes across. So it's the same in music.
And can you tell us about the early releases, like Prowling Lion, for example? Like that was something different. I'd say that was something like groundbreaking in a way, because
obviously that would have been influenced from going to Shaka and stuff. I mean, you know, that tune was my brother's. That tune was my brother's idea, the bass line and stuff. And I think, you know, kind of influence from Dread and Fred, Warrior Stance. It's got that surging, kind of relentless sound to it and stuff. I didn't program things the same way as Dread and Fred do. So mine's kind of, it's got a different sort of sound.
A different sound, yeah.
And then, you know, I put the string sounds on it and the synth sounds, you know, I liked all that kind of stuff on there. And so it becomes its own kind of thing. And, you know, I sometimes think as well, you know, the name that you give a tune kind of like sets a thing in people's mind.
Because till today, that's the top tune for a lot of sounds. A lot of people at home are always listening to that tune. And
yeah, you know, which gets a bit like, okay, you know, I'm still making tunes, you know what I mean? So
but they're hooked on that.
Why not listen? You know, the new tunes are still made by me, you know. Same way as the old tunes. So.
Did you have an idea at the time what sort of effect it would have on people?
Not really, no. I mean, we made that tune, and initially there was a friend of ours, Colin Moore, who used to help us who helped me running around town. He was in the business in some smaller way and knew the distributors and the record shops and all this sort of stuff, and he drove, so he used to help me distribute the records around all the record shops and the distributors and stuff. And initially, you know, he suggested that he released it, but through whatever. It never really happened. So I'd done some raw mixes like a couple of years before for that. And then, you know, in coming up to 93, it was like I'm thinking, I know Colin's not going to do it. It's been 2 years. You know, maybe we should do it. You know, it's like, you know, we don't know the record business, but sometimes you got to give it a go. You know, you see the adverts for record pressing and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. We knew of Jah Tubbies. You know, that was the place to go, one of the places to go to get your track mastered and manufactured and all that. You get given a price, and it's just like, you know, but I think because we had that track sort of set for a release, it was like, we kind of kept the idea of it for a release. And maybe, you know, it's difficult to remember all the little facts and stuff. We was running sound, so maybe it was just like, maybe it was going down well on the sound. Maybe everybody was just telling us, it's like, that's the track, you know what I mean? But then obviously you had the idea of doing 3 mixes on one side and then another tune on the other side. 3 mixes, do it at 33 RPM and put 2 tunes on there. So, you know, that was how it kind of went. And then all of a sudden, when my friend Colin took me up to the main distributor at the time, which was SRD, Southern Records, which went on to do the Dubhead releases and stuff. And when Colin first took us up there, the guy in there, just he took 1 copy and, you know, wasn't really that interested. He says, we got all of Twinkle Brothers and Mad Prof stuff here. It doesn't really sell that much, blah, blah, blah. This is the spiel that he's giving us. Wasn't really interested. My friend, he took us back up to SRD, told the guy in there we'd sold 500 of this last one. And they got this new one, and the guy said, oh, well, we'll take it. You know, it took a couple of 250 copies. There was other places. There was like Fat Shadow. Which was like, you know, they took a couple of boxes of it and stuff. I can't remember if we dropped off at Jetstar. We might have done, but Jetstar wasn't really good for the dub thing. And then just running around the record shops, you know. SRD found that they shifted their lot. And the thing at the time as well was like there was you had this kind of techno scene that was kind of, you know, things like Dread Zone and then people there that would do stuff, and, you know, they would have kind of ideas of dub within their music, but it wasn't music that we would hear in our dances. It was for different stuff. But it was kind of like, you know, they were sort of running a little bit side by side, and they would cite things like King Tubbies and this and that, and maybe Shaka and whatever. And so the record shops that dealt with that stuff started taking an interest. And in particularly in Germany, we had quite a market sort of come up in Germany at the time, in that earlier period of the first half of the 90s. You know, they was taking a good portion of the records. And so it just sort of, you know, the records were selling and it kept going. It was just like good time, you know. They would try to keep up a few releases. At the same time, we was running the sound system, and then, you know, by 95, it was just like, you know, the whole scene had kind of really opened up more.
So during the 90s, you built your own sound system, Boom Shakalaka.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that? Because not many people would have heard it, as in like, people in my age, obviously, I never heard it. It was
that was before your time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, we had my brother did a magazine. He did this magazine, BSL Boom Shakalaka magazine, which was from, you know, I think around 87. I think he started. I can't remember now. 87, I think so. And the first issue we did was with there was an article on Shaka and stuff. And so it was kind of, that was part in our scene and stuff like that. And there was Joey J, who was on the radio, who was on Kiss FM at that time. You know, he picked up the magazine and made contact with us. And he started a club up in Camden Town, Kentish Town. I can't remember the name of the venue right now. It was a well-known one up there. And invited us down. He really invited my brother down, because my brother was writing, you know, doing this magazine and stuff. Invited him down to play a selection. So I said, yeah, you know. So, and you know, as part of that, I took a cassette along with some couple of new tunes, which I'd done with Rashida, which was Give Jah Praise and Only Jah Worthy, and we played them at it and stuff. And then that kind of like, you know, sort of that took us a little interest. Obviously, we've been going to Shaka a number of years by now, you know what I mean? So it's like, we was well into all the sound system thing and stuff. And then Jay started up, moved from Kentish Town, Camden Town, and started doing sessions in the community centre in Southall. And it was in the little side hall where they had the dining part, and which was it was big enough in there, you know, because they had that barrier that closed, that would close, you know, the door. Yeah, some big doors.
Yeah,
they were closed off from the main hall. Just had it in a small area. You know, 400 or 500 people would get in there. Jay had his sound system, the Good Times sound system with his brother Norman Jay. So they used to do this thing, invite us down along with Eastern Shear, Anir, and Junior B and them, and you know, invite us down to do that. But you know, Joey was always, you know, I think because it was I don't know if it was all of his sound or whether it was, you know, his brother's sound or whatever, but it was always a little bit kind of like hesitant for you to
let it rip.
Yeah, a bit of oomph, you know what I mean? Yeah. We all got a Shaka and we liked a bit of, you know, a bit of growl. You know, and Joey was always like, you know, keep a clean sound. Yeah, the sound sounded good, but it was just clean, you know. And so that kind of made us think, or made me think, it's just like, you know, it's like, this is really, you know, we was quite into it. It's like a mad idea entered my head to build a sound. So I did.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to rely on Joey J, you know.
To provide it.
Yeah, we could just go in there, and it's like if we wanted to rass up the bass, blow our speakers, we could do that, you know, and we did. So, yeah.
And what would you say was your most memorable session with the sound?
That's really hard to remember, you know, because a lot of time when you're going to do sessions, it's just, you know, your head, as you know from doing this session tonight, there's a million things. I mean, you're doing a million more things than we ever did. But you know, you got to think about your sounds and the van hire and getting to the place and setting up and this and that, you know. Your mind's sort of all out and you're thinking, you know, lasting the whole night around till God knows what time in the morning. By the morning comes, it's like, you know, you're mashed and you've got to load it back in the van and, you know, take it home and this and that. You've kind of forgotten half about the dance, about half the tunes that you play. Was it a good dance? I don't know. Listen back to the recording of it afterwards. Well, it wasn't so bad, you know. So it's very hard to kind of say that. It's very hard to remember a specific dance that I would say was like a killer dance for us personally. I could remember it from I can remember going to Shaka and remember certain dances, killer dances. But very hard for myself, you know.
Because for people like me that never been, and it's quite mythical, like the way I hear about the sound, because I was never there, and it was made and done before my time anyway.
Yeah.
And what would you say was the cause or reason that you decided to pack up the sound?
There was a few. Yeah, it kind of, you know, my brother he became the mic man, which at first he thought that's what he would.
Was he mic man just for the sound or for?
No, just for
okay.
Yeah, he was driving as well. He was a driver, because a lot of time we'd go and do shows and it would just be me and him, because they'd be, you know, outside of London. So it was.
You didn't have a whole posse?
No, we didn't have a posse. In London, you could get a couple of mates to come, and there'd always be a couple of guys standing outside a venue that would help you lift a few boxes in and stuff like that. But usually when you played out of town somewhere, you wouldn't have that, just me and him. But he was a mic man, and at first he thought that would be his thing. But then after a while, it started to play on his mind. You know, for a white guy to be sort of chanting lyrics that maybe ain't for a white guy.
Right,
you know, because we never adopted the thing. You know, we didn't grow locks and all that kind of stuff. We never adopted that thing that we were a Rasta or anything. You know, but we're playing tunes that are Rasta tunes. You know, if we're playing some Pablo tune or whatever it is, you know, it's like, yeah, we're playing all that because it's the music still, you know. But him sort of getting on the mic and chanting something, it's like that started to kind of play on his mind to a point where, you know, I used to have to say to him, I think in the last year or something, I had to say to him, look, just drive, don't do anything, you know, I'm not going to pressure you to go on the mic. Sometimes when I did that, he'd go on the mic and he'd do something wicked, you know what I mean? It was just like, the pressure had been taken off of him, but if he felt that he had to get up and do that, you know, be the performer, then that kind of messed with him. But then the music was starting to kind of, you know, initially when we got into it, you know, we had this love for reggae music, so we were thinking, you know, we wanted to play all these roots tunes, and there was new stuff coming out of Jamaica, you know, your early Exterminator, Avena label and stuff like that, you know, that kind of sort of semi-dancehall roots, you know what I mean? The digi stuff that was coming from Jamaica and from New York and bits and pieces from over the UK and that. You know, we had kind of visions when we started of like, if we get anywhere with this, you know, we make connections with these producers and get dubbed. Like we had heard Shaka going to New York or going to Jamaica and picking up tunes from Lego Studio or this little, you know, it's like we had that kind of vision. But the scene became a very dub orientated scene. You know, a very much more of a UK orientated thing. So you couldn't, you know, when you know, we played them JA tunes, but they didn't seem to do as much in the dance as, you know, you put on a Proud and Lion, then the crowd go bonkers. And that kind of really wasn't what we had the intention of with the sound.
Right.
And it sort of felt like it wasn't going where we wanted it to go. I mean, you know, it was just like, brother, I remember we did this dance up in Bradford with Roots Man up there, one of his dubby crazy dances. You know, at the end of it, we'd sitting, because we stayed with him overnight after the dance, and we were sitting around having some breakfast, and my brother just, you know, there was chit-chatting, my brother said, I don't really want to do this anymore. And in my mind, I was kind of thinking, it's like, I'm not enjoying this. It's not as enjoyable as I thought it might be. And because he said that, I didn't really want to put no more extra pressure on him. I just felt the same. It's like, oh, that's it, that's the last one then. We did have a couple of bookings already in, and we did do one of them, I think, down in Southall. And that was the last one.
Did you then cancel the ones that you had?
The only other one was with Culture Promotions. And that was some several months ahead. And so I phoned Nicky up and said, you know, it's like.
Do you remember exactly what year the sound began and what year?
I think we started in '91. I get confused about when we actually got the sound together and whether it was working in '91 or whether it was working in '92. Always seemed to me we had like about 4 years with it, '95, and then it was like, that was it. I can't remember if we finished in '95 or right at the end of '95, I think it was. Yeah. And then in '96, you know, I was just that was it. You know, I sold the sound, and I just thought I'd just concentrate on music. We started with music, I'll just go back to concentrating with it. Which was always really more my thing, was like studio stuff and that. You know, we got carried away with the sound system, as many sound system people do.
True.
But Nikki phoned me up, this booking that I had with her. She phoned me up because they had this dub club thing going off. And they had moved it into, because they used to, that was up in the Dome, up in Tufnell Park.
Yeah.
But they was always having problems with noise issues up there and stuff. And then they had moved for a couple of weeks into the Rocket. The Rocket had this basement hall, which was not so big. It had a little club system in there and stuff. She phoned me up and says, would you do it? Because I couldn't find a replacement for you. But this day, you know. And a few months had passed and I thought, I'll just go and do it. You know? Yeah. Not with my brother was out of it. But, I had my friend Delroy maybe and someone else. And I said, yeah, we'll come and do it, you know. And I thought, well, maybe that's the thing I'll do. I'll just do these type of things. And then obviously, well, I don't know if it's obvious, but we started getting more bookings in Europe. You know, the Dubhead thing, we're going over to Europe. They set up a thing with the likes of myself and Dougie Conscious Sounds and some other people to go touring around France and Germany. Yeah. And that became the norm then, you know, going abroad and doing shows. And it was all right. That's how I carried on. You couldn't, you didn't carry your sound over to France or Germany.
No.
You just went and played on club system.
And how would you say it changed from those days? Because obviously that was a whole different decade. That was the 90s. How do you think? Could you describe how sound changed from the 90s. But sound
or
production, the music, sound of the production changed from the 90s to the early 2000s and the current day.
Well, you know, I mean, for myself personally, you know, the influence was always Jamaican music. But, you know, we made what we made, so it sounded very UK. And I, you know, I'd listen to, I loved Mad Professor, you know, early Mad Professor and stuff like that. And, you know, what Shaka did, and, you know, the stuff that was on his label, you know, I liked all that sort of stuff.
The Disciple stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, so that, you know, you'd have that influence as well. And then, you know, it was just like, you just do them kind of tunes. But, you know, the Jamaican thing was still a big influence. We'd still want to, or I'd still want to be playing Jamaican music when I DJ'd. And I did, I carried on doing that. As long as there was new Jamaican tunes coming out that was, you know, befitted what I could play. And there was, you know, right up until the early sort of 2000s. Then, you know, the Jamaican music business kind of flopped itself, you know, for the record business, you know.
Yeah.
And you started seeing lots less release. You know, in like 97 or 98, I started, you know, got on the internet and I started building my own website, and I would review new singles and all this, you know, that was coming out, all the Jamaican stuff. You know, you could go every time I went up to Dub Vendor, you'd come back with 20, 30 records, you know. It was, but then in the 2000s, you'd go up there and you'd come back with 2 or 3 records. You come back with nothing, you know, a whole month would go by, it's just like, oh, there's nothing new. And so there was less of that Jamaican side of it to really play, you know, new stuff, because you'd want to be playing new tunes in there, you know, you'd want to go for playing old, you know, older stuff and warm up to new stuff that gets the vibe going, and then we get into our thing and, you know, we sort of have that linearity to it, you know, that flow. So the Jamaican stuff just kind of stopped, or it started to get a bit too soft. You know, you had the whole thing like with what Don Corleone did with Drop Leaf, which was a massive tune in reggae, you know, but it influenced so much of other Jamaican reggae music. It all become a nice enough tune, but it's a soft tune. It ain't gonna do nothing in our dances, you know. It might do something in a rubber dub reggae dance, but it ain't gonna do nothing in our kind of dances. And, you know, it was like, well, every other record that was coming out of Jamaica at that time was just sounding like Drop Leaf. So there was nothing coming out for us. So the concentration then became more of what we did. Not just talking myself, but, you know, what our scene did. And then the crowds, you know, the younger crowds that started to get into it, it was just like they didn't really hear the Jamaican stuff. They didn't really care about Jamaican stuff. They just cared about what we did.
It's got straight into the...
Yeah. And so it became that thing, and, you know, it's like, okay, that's fair enough. That's all good. Until it got to a point where it was like, now it's gone a bit, you know, it's like, it's a bit too, you know, I'm not dissing it, but just, it's like, it's sort of got very removed from what I remember it and what, you know, influenced me to want to go in and do that thing, you know, to DJ on, play out and stuff, you know. It just changed.
Different times.
Yeah, but that's how it goes, you know, nothing stays the same forever.
No, exactly.
You know, it's you know, what Shaka was doing in the 90s weren't what he was doing in the 70s and 80s. Why would it be? You know, reggae in Jamaica weren't what it was doing in the 60s, you know, so it just changes, it moves on. It's natural, you know, so you have to kind of be a little aware in your own mind, you know, us older geezers have to be a little bit aware to, it's like, yeah, the thing changed. There's nothing we can do about it. Either we move with it or we move away from it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but you can move with it and still keep something of
what you got into.
What interests you to do.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I try and do. I just try and do stuff that interests me to do.
What would you say has been the best advice that's been given to you?
I don't know. Best advice? I don't know. No, I'm you know, I'm my own thinker. You know, I have my own vision of doing things. I'm, you know, not saying I'm super brainy, but I'm smart enough to kind of know what I want to do and what I can pick out of the music that I like and what I should do in the business. You know, I had the mad idea of building a sound system. I went and did it. I had the mad idea of stopping a sound system. I went and stopped it. I didn't hold on to the thing till Kingdom Come. It was just like, that was it, done, move on, Mad idea, 10 years ago I stopped DJing, and I stopped DJing. You just got to have that certainty about yourself and not sort of be beholding to what other people think you should be doing.
Right.
And so, there's not really been a specific piece of advice that anyone's ever given me.
And saying that, what could you suggest for other people like these days making sounds and producing? What advice could you give them?
Well, they have to use their smarts and kind of look and learn. When I was getting into music, we didn't know nothing about Jamaican music or the musicians or the studios or this or that, but you read up. And we only had magazines and a few old articles and stuff to try and get ideas and that on what the music and what it's about and this this kind of thing. Nowadays you've got the internet. You can find every bit of information you ever want on there. You've got to weed out some of the good information from the bad. But you have to use your brain, and if you're smart enough, you can figure that stuff out. You don't have to sort of conform to being one thing. And
what would you say is your biggest or greatest accomplishment as a producer?
Still being here now. Still being here now. Yeah. Which is quite, if I sit down and think about it, it's just like, who would have, if I, talked to me pre-Shaka days, it's like, who would have thought that I would have been doing this? And who would have thought that I've been doing it, 35 years later?
Yeah.
It's mad.
That is a massive accomplishment.
Yeah. So, the whole thing is an accomplishment, isn't it?
Did you ever think that you'd live your life with music?
No.
Yeah.
No. I always wished that I would have something that would allow me to not have to do a 9-to-5 job, and luckily enough, it come along. It's like, you have to kind of keep working at it. Can't just, the music business don't owe you nothing. So you've got to keep working at it and make moves that maybe some correct moves. Yeah. Keep in there, to maintain. Because I see so many people, come and go in this music because they're not smart enough to kind of figure it's like, I need to do this and I need to do it. I can't rely on somebody else,
I think people have an idea that it can just work like that and overnight and stuff, but there's a lot that goes into it.
It can take a lot of time, and these days it's not so easy,
No.
If you're getting guys getting into sound system and stuff, anybody can go and buy the equipment. It's there to get. But to get shows, to get regular shows, that's another whole different ball game.
Exactly.
And you've got to be able to get out there and show people that you can do the shows and you've got something to offer. And not everybody does, there's no guarantee that you've got the skill to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't work for everyone.
No. I could sit here and think, I want to become a pilot. I can fly a plane, what I mean? It's like, isn't it, I might dream of it, but it's just, it's never going to happen. And so you have to have a bit of reality about them things. There's no problem having a go.
Yeah, exactly.
If people want to sit there and make music, it's like, you see the internet's awash with people making music. It always was. But if it makes that guy happy doing that, if it takes up his time, if his time is spent doing that rather than going down a pub or some other bullshit, and it's like, go do that, because that's a better thing to do.
Exactly.
Maybe you've got something. Maybe you're lucky enough to have had something that'll push you into the business and get you going.
What sort of stage in life do you think you sort of made it, like that you could? Yeah.
I suppose we had it pretty kind of easy because, my initial thing into it through Shaka was just like, it was still a hobby. I was still working. I worked up till 93, and I still, even though he was playing our tunes and he released 4 albums, it was still just like a hobby. I didn't think that I could make a living out of it or anything, but I was made redundant, and that kind of spurred me on to see, well, what can I do? We had the 2 records out, I just had the Proud and Lion out, and that, we'd sold that, and it was just like, I couldn't, didn't want to go back to work anywhere, So it was, let me see if I can make this happen. And the few things happened for me, you know, the record sold. There was a lot of interest in the music at that time, you know. So it was just like it all really helped. And then as the years by and you're in the business and you know you can make a bit of money and this and that, it's like it just carries on.
Yeah, well, Shaka releasing a few of your albums and playing your music from early and giving you your name even.
So he gave us a name, and it's just like, you know, when I come to do my own thing, I had already had a name out there.
Yeah.
You know, for anybody that's coming out and putting their first record out and they haven't got any of that behind them, it's going to be hard. Don't expect it not to be hard. Especially these days, because it's like there's a world of people. You know, when I come out, there wasn't that many people making them.
He definitely saw something in you, that's for
He
sure.
Saw something
he definitely saw.
Yeah, we made music that he kind of liked to play, where there wasn't so many people doing it. You know, you know, when we come out, it's like, well, you might have had Manasseh, Sound Irish, and Alpha and Omega. None of us knew each other. None of us knew of each other. You know,
you were never in touch with. You were never in touch with each other. Like.
No, because how do you get to know? There's no internet. It was, you know, if Shaka played a tune, it's like, oh, well, who's that by?
Yeah.
You know, Shaka may would have played, you know, Alpha and Omega's first 7-inch or whatever, but it's like, you didn't know who Alpha and Omega. Shaka don't say, yeah, this is Alpha and Omega, and then standing over there, ain't gonna do that, is it, you know?
No.
So no, it's just another tune that gets played in the dance.
But I'd say it's safe to say like Shaka took you kind of under his wing, like under his umbrella and kind of...
Well, he did, yeah, you know, and I remember him saying something about that, because he said, you know, that a lot of people would give him music, and out of all of them, you know, it's like, not just he chose Dread and Fred as well, and, you know, he chose us, and there was obviously other little bits and pieces that he was still putting, you know, good brethren with Twinkle Brothers and that, you know what I mean, doing his own thing, you know, so I was just like, you know, that seemed to be enough for him.
Because with you, like even the years that you weren't going sessions, because when you stopped, because you had your own sessions, like the years I was been going, there's always pretty much every session I went to, a Disciples tune was played.
That's because I kept making them.
Yeah.
I didn't stop.
So,
yeah.
So that's also a massive accomplishment as well.
Starting to get to, you know, work with a lot of different people, where initially it was just me and my brother. You know, I mean, as time goes on, it's just like, you know, people start making contact. They, you know, they hear something in whatever the sound that I could get from my little studio, and they would come down and want me to produce them and this and that, you know.
Did you stop releasing tunes on your own label for a good almost 20 years or something like that?
Well, it kind of happened. I mean, you know, I kind of, you know, I had the BSL label and I did 5 releases on that. And then I wanted to, because I love Jamaican music, I wanted to do vocal tunes and roots tunes, you know. So I did the Backyard Movements label, and we, you know, sort of carried on that for a while until it sort of, you know, nobody was really that bothered about that style. And then just really, yeah, you know, the occasional release here and there and stuff. But at that time, it was just like, yeah, I was in and out of the country doing stuff. You know, when you're traveling and doing shows, it's kind of hard to really concentrate on putting records out. But at the same time, you know, from the time, you know, it got into the 2000s and you're on the internet and stuff, there's lots more people getting in contact with you to do remixes or production work. And I was doing, you know, I did more stuff for other people than I was doing for myself for a good number of years. You know, sometimes you just couldn't find the time to do your own thing so much. And so there was a good period where it was just like, yeah, I wasn't really releasing that much. And then, you know, the last sort of 10 years, there were different things that kind of happened, you know, with my mother passing and looking after my dad for, you know, for a number of years, and then him passing and having to move. So it kind of, you know, your priorities ain't on releasing music. Yeah. And then you come along, you know.
Twist your arm a bit.
Twist my arm, yeah. You know, offered to release or to handle my releases, and you know, I gave you the chance.
Yeah.
You know, it's like some people might sort of see it as a risk, but sometimes you've got to take the risk. You know, you didn't really know. You only knew you from the internet and, you know, chatting to you about production stuff and what have you. So
with the bringing back your label and stuff, for me, it wasn't like I just had this idea randomly one night, and we were talking before because we've done the in the box mixing and stuff. That's and I was asking you for loads of advice And I just wanted to hear a tune. I asked you for a tune just to listen to a tune that you just mixed recently, so I could kind of hear what can be done. Obviously, I knew it was going to be a whole different level, but then I just thought, let me ask him why you're not releasing things. I asked you as well, why you're not doing anything? And you mentioned not being really in the network for it, and
because I've moved to the South Coast, and it's just like, it's like, wow, how can I release a record and do the running around, I mean, my memory of running around records was getting on a train and running around London.
A couple hundred
go to this record shop, go to that distributor, blah, blah. I can't do that from bloody Bexhill on the South Coast. It's just too much, you know what I mean?
Too far.
So it was just like, it's changed a little bit now. I could probably release a record and it's just like, shove them all down to Dubwise and, that's it, let the man deal with it. But that was never my thing. I liked part of the thing of going around and just dealing with people direct.
It's different now.
I couldn't do that from Bexhill.
I just wanted to, because for me, obviously I tell you all the time, you're a legend and stuff. So for me, it's like an honor to have helped you with that. And look at all the tests, but like Shaka was playing all the tunes as well. Like you saw the session when you played at Bexhill, it's back to back, all the tunes.
Which was good, because I kind of, sort of taken, not a back seat, but a back seat of releasing, a definite. So I wasn't really sure, it's just like, I knew I'd moved, I was older and the crowd was younger, so I wasn't really sure about what should release. I might have in my mind what I'd want to release, but maybe that isn't the best thing to release. So you being a younger guy and more in the scene, it was just like, okay, if he says release this one, let's go with it.
Safe,
Because, just releasing any old tune, sometimes that don't work.
No, exactly.
You
might like it yourself.
You might like it yourself and, maybe you sell a portion. Maybe I could sell a portion because it's like, I am who I am. That don't always work, And for anybody else that's coming through new, that's definitely a much harder thing to do. But yes, so it worked out between us, and I didn't mind. So, yeah.
And with sessions, like you retired from sessions like 10, 11 years ago. And what would you say the main reason behind that would be?
Well, me and Jonah Dan, who's here tonight at this show, as my mic man, we have been going around doing shows for a long time. And, as time was going on, we'd go to places and the crowd would seem to be getting younger and younger and we're getting older and older. One of the last shows that we did was in, it was I think Croatia, one of them big festivals. You go there, you're driving through the festival and it's just like teenagers, It's just like, what the hell? We're in our 50s and we're playing, we're trying to play to teenagers. To my mind, it's like, that's mad, And that younger crowd, they don't know the music. People might go on. I've had there's going to be a lot of people here tonight that's, I've already had the message, you've got to play this and you've got to play that tune, Serious Warrior and, Wicked Man, and that, So, there's going to be, but I should imagine there's a number of people in there. It's like that tune, them tunes, they don't know them tunes. It doesn't mean anything to them because they wasn't around in the time that, I was really playing them. And maybe that's a thing that I just get bogged down in my mind. I'm just thinking I'm playing music to people that don't know the music. And I'm not sure if that's working for me. That's what I felt 10 years ago. I just wasn't sure that it was working for me. So me and Jonah used to sort of, we'd do the show and we'd come out, the next day as we're traveling home, we'd be saying to him, what was that about? It's just like, we just wouldn't feel anything from it, And maybe that was a build-up thing, just over a period of time or a number of sessions. You could go and have a session and it'll be like, this one was really good, the vibe's right, blah, blah. But maybe you'd have just too many that were just like, just not quite, you're not right, And the travelling become hard, It's like as you get older, it becomes harder, running around airports and railway stations and all that,
Carrying your records.
Carrying your records, It's like you get sometimes, because when you're being booked for these things, a lot of time it's by, some small, shows. So it's like, your flights are either way early in the morning or the last thing at night. you get into what's the airport up?
Stansted.
No, it's not Stansted. What's the one? What's right up North London? Luton Airport.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's, getting there at 8 o'clock, but by the time you got through security and got to the train and your train's got down to London, it's past 12 o'clock now.
You do the whole mission before the mission.
Yeah. So that's a mission. So you get into where King's Cross or wherever it was, and it's just like, then you'd have to pay £100 to get a taxi bloody home from there because there's no trains running now.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that just seems like too much effort for me now. But, at the same time, it was just like, my mother passed away. I felt, I didn't want to leave my dad, And, after a couple of years, because his eyesight was going as well, and I just, I ain't leaving my dad, I don't mind stopping all, it was a good reason to help me stop him.
Yeah.
The whole thing of all that travelling, of not knowing your audience anymore, because it felt like they were all youngsters. It just felt the right time to stop. And I didn't, I just didn't want to start up again. But you've dragged me out.
So, how do you feel about tonight, knowing like the session sold out within a few weeks?
Yeah, well, that's quite humbling, you know what I mean?
Months before that, a quarter of a year before the session itself.
Yeah. Well, what can I say, it's like, yes. It is quite humbling and I appreciate it that people want to come out and see and with that kind of interest, that's quite surprising.
Is there something you want to say for the people tonight?
Oh gosh, no. I hate that question.
No, I mean, what do you expect? Because you're a legend to everyone, not just, I don't just say it to you just for...
Well, the good thing about this event, and the way that you've advertised it and put it on, and, maybe it's because it's who I am. It's like, there's going to be a lot of people there that I know. So it's not just looking out into a faceless crowd. It's just like, there's going to be people there. It's like you're going to have a portion of South and Bods. So it's just like, if I ain't playing Serious Warrior and,
it's going
to be a riot. And when I do play them, they're going to be vocal about it. So that's going to be good. That's going to be a good vibe.
Yeah, because knowing that it's sold out within a few weeks, it's the hardcore fans of yours. It's not just some people drifting in from the street, or it's some serious loyal fans that you have.
But I know there's people from all over, probably other people that have never seen us, I know there's people from all over that are coming, so good,
I'm happy to have arranged it with you, man.
Yes.
It's been good. And what can we expect next from the Disciples? What have you got in the pipeline, like studio or release?
I just carry on with my interest in making tunes, and it can be all different styles. There was a time that I was kind of down on doing steppers because I just felt it was just going same thing, and that happens. That kind of. It's not that you're against a certain style, but you just get bored of doing that same style, and you have to leave it for a period. And sometimes that has been years. But it's just like, I'm okay with doing anything when I've got the inspiration to do it. And so, at the moment I'm not doing much steppers, I'm doing some different styles, and like whether they get released on vinyl is a different thing, but they might go up on my Bandcamp, and I'm happy enough with that. If there's 20 people that are interested in it, that's all well and good. Sometimes it's just how it goes. But I'm in a position of life where I can just do that. And it's just like, it's almost become like a hobby again, but a hobby that sort of keeps it going. It's like, what else would I do? I'm not going to go and play golf. I'm not going to sit and watch cricket. I'm not going to start making model railways and stuff like that. All I've known for the last 35 odd plus years is music. So, there was a time, 5 years ago after my dad had died, and I'm just thinking, maybe it's coming up to I should retire. Maybe I should retire when I'm 67 or something, you know what I mean? But you start to think, but what would I do? My brother's just retired and he sits at home, reading his Kindle and playing records. Or not playing records sometimes, But he's got his family. He's got his grandkids and that kind of stuff. So it's like, you know, I don't have any of that. So it's, what else do I do? I can go, you know, in the summer I can go down to my beach, my local beach. You know, 5-minute walk and sit on the beach. In the morning,
soaking the
half
heat.
my day goes by, you know, and you know, go home. Might make a tune, might not make a tune.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So you say you're happy with the way it's gone with the music, like from the beginning, running.
I can't say I'm unhappy with it.
Yeah. With all the
I've got there's no ambition now, you know, because the music, there's nothing really in the music to be ambitious about. Maybe if you're younger, the ambition is to make something of yourself in the music and to do this and do that. You know, I've done this and I've done that. You know, what am I supposed to do? You know, I can just make tunes, but I ain't gonna sort of. I ain't got the ambition. I've got to get this set of singers, or I've got to do this certain thing. You know, some years ago I had the idea of like maybe redoing some tracks with live instruments and blah blah blah. But really, the effort and maybe the money to do that is just not worth it. You know, it's just it would just be a thing to do for the point of doing it. So I just carry on doing what I'm doing now, and that's it, you know.
That's so good. So you're looking forward to tonight then?
I'm not sure if I'm looking forward. You know, I've got no problems with doing tonight. Whether I can sustain it, endure it.
When's the last time you've been awake since till this sort of 5 a.m.?
You know, I go to bed at midnight. You know what I mean? I'm asleep by midnight, and that's it. You know, don't wake up till 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Now I've got to endure, you know, this thing till later. God knows what time in the morning, and I hope I can stand up.
So she'll make you a coffee every hour or something?
Well, that's it, yeah. And you got my stick and you can sit there and prod me a little bit, you know, Russ, wake up. And yeah, that'll be it.
Sounds all good.
It's a one-off, as it's been advertised. It will be a one-off, there won't be any more. That's it.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I'm really, you know how much of a fan I am.
But I'm, you know, I'm as fit as I can be right now. So
it's a huge honor for me for you to be here, man. Really, it's a big deal for me, and I'll remember these moments for the rest of my life as well. So thank you for coming down, and it's been an honor. And I'm looking forward to tonight.
But I'm prepared with tunes. I hope I'm prepared with tunes that people are gonna appreciate.
Yeah, serious warrior, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, it's not a normal session, so I don't, you know, it's not like I've got to play a whole bunch of brand new stuff and impress people with, you know, I've got such and such a tune, this and that. It's just like, you know, going to be a lot of my own stuff, and
I think that's
going
what we
from
all
way
want.
back to
that's what we all want to hear.
Yeah, so that's what it's going to be.
All right, well, I think that's all then.
Yeah.
That's good. It's a nice room though. Nice and warm in here. We're gonna freeze now as soon as we leave the room. Yeah.
Yo, man. Hey, Jonah.